How you doing, boy?
Tommy, we're okay. We're okay.
Yeah.
We had a little spill. Here. Karen was doing some construction work on the roof and broke her ankle.
No, really?
Broke her foot.
That's
yes,
bad.
broke her foot.
That's not a
rough
joke.
going into Independence Day, but she's a trooper. She's getting after it, and I told her, get back on that roof and get back to work.
Get that gutter cleaned out. Come on now. Well, that's great. She's wearing the boot and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
Got the boot on. Okay,
100%.
all right. Now
and it's carp.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's carp season up here, Tommy. So she's kind of on her own. I have work to do.
You got work to do on the carp season. Well, look, are you going to do, as always, the giant aerial assault? Set the sky on fire yet again on 4th of July this year?
Tommy, I have things. Things were purchased yesterday. They have been the items have been secure, and we're safely. We are ready to go in a big way. Let me put it this way. I'm gonna make the sky cry this year. That's the theme of my.
That's a good note to start it on. Let's make everybody cry. Let's start the show right now. The TnZ show. That's what we're here for. And looking forward to this one. A prediction you made last time came true. You said we were going to have a fun tournament on Lake Tenkiller. That prediction turned out to be especially for the anglers. Everybody got to catch a whole bunch of fish, and it was great competition, as close as it can possibly get. What's not to like about that tournament we witnessed?
I mean, it was an absolute catch fest. And big thanks, even though we had a pretty rough tournament, big thanks to Jason Christie, kind of dialing us in, where we were able to talk about that event, that it was going to be very, very unique. And as we embark with only 2 tournaments left, Tommy, I think this season, from the outside watching in, I'm gonna creep on up to Lake St. Clair and do a little side work with Dave Mercer and the whole gang. And
that'll be great.
that. But I really believe this season, and we're going to talk a little bit about the schedule. It's had a lot of diversity.
We have.
This tournament in particular, front to back, as far as going down to the wire, unbelievable event. The great thing, what was different this time around from watching when Carl won here a couple years ago during the pandemic, dude, that if you want to go catch bass, go to Lake Tenkiller.
No kidding. That place is full of them, absolutely full of them. And it runs back to what we talked about in the previous show. We talked about Mr. Ebert's comment that fish the way you want to is a great guiding principle. And that was a tournament with a winner, of course, who got to do exactly that, got to fish the way he wants to.
In a very big way. Not only that, today we're going to do a little something different for Independence Day.
Okay.
We usually do first flight, last flight. We're only going to do first flight today, as we have an incredible Angler of the Year race. Obviously, a lot of those anglers are going to be in our first flight, but from there, we're not going to do last flight, Tommy Sanders. We're going to do something different, correct?
I have not heard that yet. I prepared a last flight, but I can still make mention of the point I was going to make there and just, be a little bit of a miscreant there. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. All of that's coming later. A lot more. We're going to talk about the season. You said it. We're going to talk about why this was really a good season and what we like best about it, which is maybe places we've never been before or haven't been in a long time.
Exactly. We're going to attack a lot of the schedule, but most of all in this podcast, and I guess you could say this is the last of the last flight for some anglers. We are going to talk about some anglers that may not requalify, a couple anglers that are right on the fence. A lot of this in the past has been very, very blurry on who some of the anglers were. We're gonna kind of give it all out today. That's the biggest meat in the TnZ podcast today, is who is on the fence, who is in real trouble. And some of those names have been with the Bassmaster Elite Series for a very, very long time.
Decades at the very top of the fishing game. There's going to be many fans and much beloved characters in that list there. And you're right. I think we'll be doing a service to make it a little less, murky about how that process works and where we stand right now. And it's not over. It's not over and done this year by any means. But right now, before we can go another step further, I think you're going to hit us with a little Strike King info, right?
Tommy, I am actually, as we embark on the 2025 ICAST down in Orlando. Everybody on earth loves going to Orlando in July. It's a wonderful place, low humidity, low temps.
Plenty of restaurant space available,
Number one this week. And by the way, before we get into the number one, Tommy, for the first time ever on the TnZ podcast, we do not have a winner of the products from the. No, I'm not kidding. So what I was going to do, I was going to gift everything to you, my friend, to you and Mike McInnes, to where you guys can go to Mr. Pat's and beat them down with a bunch of those popping perches that I was showing. Nobody picked it because I gave it till noon. I gave it till noon on day one when we put the picture of the photos of the lures up. Nobody picked Wes Logan. Surprisingly, big shocker. How many people picked Andrew Loberg, though?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can't imagine more people picked Andrew Loberg. That's
what we're going to do. What we're going to do. I'm going to double down. Whoever wins, when I post the picture of the products, whoever wins, I'm going to double down and I'm going to send them a double load of TnZ Strike King products. Number one this week. And here's all you got to do. Go to my social media and tell me, let's do this. Double me up, old boy. Double me up. That's all you got to type. Okay. Number one, brand new, 4-inch Strike King homing minnow. Or I'm sorry, this is a pinger minnow, but they now have it in a pinger minnow and a homing minnow. Difference is the little tail right there. Both of them come in the 4-inch size. Predominantly, the 3-inch is what I've used tape and shows. It's actually what I used that we showed in the TnZ podcast. Product number one, the Strike King 4-inch. Look for that this year. Pinger minnow and homing minnow. And not only that, Tommy, also coming out in a little 2.5-inch size.
All right, good. Some variety on the way. And double me up, old boy?
Double me up, O-L, boy, B-O-Y. Double me up, old boy, and you're going to win twice the amount this week.
Double fun, double deal. You can't beat that. That's terrific. All right. Well,
two at once.
Yes, two at once. Sometimes two at once. Well, news, notes, and nuggets. I guess we got to start with that great tournament at Lake Tenkiller, which, no one was expecting the Lake Tenkiller that showed up. You probably had a handle on it better than anyone else. You said it's going to be fun, it's going to be close, and they're going to catch a lot of fish. That place is full of fish.
Full of fish, and what's obviously very, very unique to see guys flipping and swim jigging and catching smallmouth and largemouth really on the same stretches on this body of water. And what was kind of strange about that tournament, neither of us picked Jason Christie, which at the time, after we did our picks from the last TnZ podcast, I'm like, how does somebody not pick Jason Christie in this tournament?
Well,
And what was funny was really the only angler that to me that really excelled offshore, semi-offshore, kind of in between mid-depth range was Trey McKinney. But this was this was the point that, and I thought about this, is number one, looking at Andrew Loberg, big hats off to him, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. But one thing that he proved in that tournament, a lot of the folks think that a lot of the rookies or sophomores, they only know how to stare at their depth finder. When I was watching the footage from this tournament, Andrew Loberg, that pretty powerful skipping a swim jig around boat docks. Yeah. You could tell it's not the first time old boy went shallow in his lifetime. But you look at a guy like Wes Logan in this tournament, and I was texting back and forth with Mike McInnes. Are the Wes Logans and the John Cox and the Greg Hackneys, are they gone? Like, Are we going to see 5 years from now, are we going to see an angler that puts his trolling motor down and says, oh, the heck with it, I'm not going to go offshore, I'm going to do this right here, what you're watching right here every single tournament? And I'm going to go, for the most part, yes. And here's
they're gone. Yes, they're gone.
Why I don't think you're going to see many more, because here's why I think that. Okay. And I thought about this a lot the last week and a half. If you go back 20 years when you and I started, we would go on the water every single day. For the most part, when an angler on the Bassmasters would come out of the opens at the time, now pretty much you come out of the college and then the opens, and boom, you're in the Elite Series. Predominantly, except for a very few number of anglers, their wheelhouse was shallow water, dirty water, up close and personal, right. And they would mix in a little bit of deep water, right? Yes, there was anomalies to that. You could say a Van Dam. You could say a David Fritz was one of the originators of staying offshore. Aaron Martins, even though Aaron was deadly lethal up shallow, up shallow, his game was deep. If you just fast forward time to the last 5 years, it's almost like anglers now. Now, it's not like almost, it is. Anglers come out of college, they come out of the opens, and their game, their fastball, polar opposite from 20 years ago, their fastball is fishing deep, complemented by fishing shallow.
Right.
It's almost the polar opposite. To see, hey, do I like watching, the John Cox and a Wes Logan, the way they fish, a Randall Tharp, the years that we covered him, Greg Hackney. And don't get me wrong, Greg Hackney's pretty darn good, as Jason Christie, with their electronics. But it's almost like the only like comparison watching this tournament, Wes Logan was a lot like Brett Favre, man. He's like a dude that you're watching back from the early 80s, right?
Yeah. It was a trip into the time machine. It was. And I mean, but he was doing stuff. He was the best of that group, and everyone was having to do that. And he, I want you to explain something to me. He said I had to go to off the wall stuff. I did my regular shallow water thing, but I had to go to off the wall stuff because that lake is so small. You had to go behind people and catch fish in there. What was he doing, to your thinking, that was off the wall? What separated him?
Hard to say, because if you watched him fish in this tournament, I used to use this term a lot. He went on autopilot throughout this event. Yeah, he had key stretches, but you could tell he was fishing in a. I read a. My gosh, it might have been a Daily Limit from Such that he sat down with Bill Lowen and cried before this event, I think, wondering if he belonged here and stuff like, things where it's all up in your head about the state of the sport, the state of fishing, and does my style cater to surviving and making it in the professional fishing world? Off the wall, yeah, I get it. He was on autopilot, man. He was looking at something and going, dang, that looks good. That looks good. Having that sixth sense throughout this tournament. But the most important factor was Wes Logan fishing the way he is confident, the way that dude is built. And to answer that, you look at a guy like Bill Lowen, a guy like Wes Logan. Do they belong here? Damn right, man. Sure. Yes, dude belongs here. Hey, Wes and I've texted back and forth for several years. Does he need to sharpen up a little bit more offshore? Sure. I think he'd be the first to say 100% yes. But this was a special tournament. Not only to see a dude, a throwback fisherman from Alabama that's had a rough go at it really the last year with obviously 2 years with what happened at Lake Champlain. He's going to make it in this. And it'd be awesome to see him, for the most part at least, fishing it his way and making it that way.
And we got to give props to Andrew Loberg, too. I mean, he was wire to wire.
Yes.
He was going there, and this guy, you know, he does have the offshore skills, but he showed that he dropped that. He said, that's off the table now. I ain't doing it. And he showed us he could really get it done. And he was so calm and confident through it. A lot of poise for a young guy, although he's not as young as his roommates there that he rooms with. He's the old dude in the club, but he is really he's very impressive.
And you know, like a lot of our viewers, I look at a lot of the younger anglers to see if they're the whole package. Okay. And especially when a lot of the anglers go up shallow, do they got some game up there? You could tell watching just watching his mechanics throughout this tournament. He's pretty well-rounded all the way around. It's been a little bumpy throughout the season for him.
Yeah.
And you kind of felt throughout this tournament, somebody was going to catch him near the end of it. Somebody was going to catch him out of nowhere. And that's exactly what ended up. But a big time hats off to Andrew Loberg.
Yeah. Very calm, collected all through, except the last day. I could tell he spit a few times and it looked like cotton balls coming out of there. He was a little bit amped up, and who wouldn't be? I mean, it was his first time, and it's not like that. But you think about it, he lost by the weight of a not even well-fed gizzard shad that might have been barfed up before his fish came out of the live well. So that was as good as you could do.
And one of the things that you hit on, man, is to watch really the top 10 in this tournament. For the most part, you had to outfish so many people around you. And it seems like a lot of the guys that really benefited in this tournament had, at least in the morning when there was obviously a little bit of shad spawn still going on Tenkiller, they squatted and stopped. If you looked at several anglers that did that in the top 10. Bob Downey was one of them, where they had key little 20 to 30 yard stretches that would get them going, get them with filler fish where they had confidence to then kind of go on autopilot. It seems everybody in this tournament somewhere during the event had that kind of deal where they could maul them for the first hour and then move on.
Yeah. And one thing Wes and Andrew both had in common, I think they leaned on that marina right there to not to catch game changers, but just to shore up their position, fillers, to keep them in the game, fillers, to fill it out in a good way, and they both did very well at it. So hats off to those guys. Tremendous. Great
tournament. Honestly, that was and coming in, it was awesome. Jason, he didn't want me to give everything that he said away, but he said, look, man, this is going to be, for the guys in studio, it's going to be one of the best, most fun events of the entire season. And watching it definitely turned out that way.
Yeah, great place. And we'll talk more about it, I bet, later in the show. We're going to talk about some of our locations we have seen during the course of this year. But now we want to get on to the first flight, I think, right now. You want to go into that right now? And the first flight bears on your part, at least, bears an uncanny resemblance to an existing list right now.
Tommy, it really does. And as we kind of go into the final stretch of the entire season, I'm going to go with number 4. Who is number 4 in the Angler of the Year? I'm going to go with Patrick Walters. Do I think Patrick Walters has potential to win Angler of the Year looking at the point standing? I don't. I think to dig out of almost a 50-point deficit where we're going with who is in front of him, Patrick Walters fishing great yet again on the Elite Series. Do I think he gets it done for Angler of the Year? I do not, friend. Number 4, Patrick Walters. Number 3, Unstoppable. Third in the point standings in the Angler of the Year race, Trey McKinney. Do I think Trey McKinney has potential to win Angler of the Year? Get ready. I don't.
What?
Don't.
Really?
Unstoppable all year long, all the way from the Bassmaster Classic. Really, you look at that hiccup early in the season. I believe it was the St. Johns River.
Yep.
That one right there might prove very costly, almost like it was last year. But yet again, if you think about this. Basically, in 17 months, this dude has competed for a Bassmaster Classic victory and potentially another Angler of the Year. I mean, he was right there at the end of this last season. Trey McKinney, number 3. Do I think he wins Angler of the Year? I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Number 2, Chris Johnston. I'm going Carissa, but if you look down in the standings, the anchor of the team, if you look at the anchor of the team, Corey, a little bit down in the standings. And that's why I consider, can Chris Johnston win Angler of the Year? Yes.
Yeah.
I think he can, because basically I know going into St. Clair, going into the Mississippi River, he's going to have 2 bullets in his gun. Whatever Corey's on, Chris is going to be on that in a big way. Yet another huge season for Chris, trying to defend that Angler of the Year title, number 1. And I think this is going to be the biggest headache for the rest of the season, for the rest of the anglers in the top 5. I am going with obvious Jay Shakurit. Look, man, he's got a victory on St. Clair. We have watched him. We have covered him on the Mississippi River. Tommy, does it not just feel like it's his year?
Yeah.
Everything's right.
Yeah. We're going to, he won an Open, St. Clair recently, in recent years. We're going to his home state for the last, it's a train that's obviously right on track and just about poised to arrive first place.
And really, I wanted to put Easton Fothergill on this, but obviously with his first 2 tournaments that he had this year, since the first 2 tournaments, Easton Fothergill has been a wrecking crew, right?
Yeah.
But those first 2 tournaments, but if you really, and I talked about this a little bit on the last TnZ podcast, Tommy, is boy, I bet Chris Johnston really would love to have that St. Lawrence River on the docket. You know, It's always that's
sure.
that team silver, him and Corey, that is their silver bullet. I honestly think if Jay, look, I know offhand, Chris Johnston likes St. Clair. I wouldn't say he loves St. Clair. I've talked to him a lot about it. I fished with his brother out there a lot. I think if there was 2 tournaments that Jay Shakurit would write down, he would want to end the season on, whether he's leading like he is right now or he's trailing. I honestly think he would write down St. Clair, then get me to the river and let's go. Let's go. Number 1, Jay Shakurit. And I'm just going to say it now. I believe he wins AOY by a hair over Chris Johnston.
Okay. Well, yeah, who can argue with that? That's really low-hanging fruit, those 4 picks there, but that's the nature of the beast.
That was terrible.
Totally. But how can you go against it? I'll go you one better. That I would think you could take any of those top 3 right there. Fashion a bet, because now we're all supposed to be interested in gambling on stuff like that. We're just hypothetical. Fashion a bet where any of those 3 to make top 3 in any tournament versus the field, you wouldn't have to give that much outrageous odds just to get some action. Am I right?
No, I agree with that. I mean, look, man, the 4 dudes that you're looking at in first flight right there, for the most part, the last year and a half, take Trey McKinney aside, but throw him in the loop a little bit, obviously, the last 15 months. Really, for the last 5 years, these 4 guys have destroyed the Bassmaster Elite Series field. They have destroyed. They are the mountain of the Bassmaster Elite Series.
Yeah. Totally agree with that. That would be my only reaction to that. And you said we're not going to do last flight. We're not doing last flight.
We're not.
Okay. I had one observation.
Yeah.
You know, I don't go for guys who are way down in the points in last flight. I kind of go for arrows up, arrows down as far as momentum right now goes.
Yep.
And just one thing I wanted to put out was Jacob Fouts. Jacob Fouts, stretching back into 2023, all the way to the end of last season, had 12, count them, 12 cuts made in a row, which is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The streak got broken down at the St. Johns River, I believe, to start the season. Okay, it was broken. He came back, made 2 more cuts, but since then he has not made any more cuts. It's just incredible how fortunes can turn around. And he's, you know, I mean, at the St. John's the year before in 23, he was in 24. I'm saying he was in 3rd place. How does that happen?
Maybe he needs to put out one of them goofy videos again because hey, it
worked.
Hey, listen, I'm saying that dead serious.
Okay.
Because I popped off a little bit about one of those videos probably maybe not the best idea on planet Earth to do. And the dude went on a absolute tear. Jacob, if you're listening, do another video. Make it completely whacked out.
That's the only cure we can come up with. But I just thought that was notable because I just sort of go for arrow up, arrow down momentum.
Tommy, if an unhinged video creates massive career success, we're obviously going to talk about hey, there could be a lot more videos that can come out here in the next probably month and a half.
Yeah, I welcome them. Bring them on. That would be great.
Which I think there probably will be.
I think that's a good point. Well, let's circle back around to the Strike King mode here because we have some more to learn.
Tommy, it has been one of those kind of old school years. Strike King, look, I'm staying real basic. A Strike King 5XD, a 5XD chartreuse blue powder back. Chartreuse blue powder back. Favorite color of one Keith Combs. And here's the thing, friend. A 5XD this time of year doesn't only work on the Tennessee River, doesn't only work in Texas. A 5XD works anywhere in the country. If you're ripping and tearing in grass, doesn't matter what it is. Just literally plowing rock and gravel up north. Going to be doing that soon. And here's what I'm going to do, Tommy. Okay. Just because we didn't have a winner, I'm going to send you a 5XD, a 6XD, a 3XD, an 8XD. I'm going to send you the family of XDs. If you're on the water now, fish are getting offshore throughout the entire country. The XD series of baits. If you've been looking, I'm going to give Jay Kumar a little love in the Bassmaster.
Yeah.
The XD series has been a big player the last 30 days. And you're going to be getting a lot from the Z-Train house. Tommy, don't be scared to jump back in and answer the question this week. You may get a pile from Mr. Pats.
Yeah, well,
Strike King.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on that. You bet I'm going to jump on that. Good stuff there, good stuff. And we, it's time. Other things come up that we need to take care of, business we need to take care of. We need to give the rookies some love. I mean, our rookies have been a big part of the narrative of each of the last 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, not a big part, but a huge part of the narrative. So let's take a look at our Rookie of the Year standings right now and just kind of go through that and get some of your thoughts about how these guys stand and who's going to win and who has performed up to and exceeding expectations and who hasn't. Starting with Paul Marks, got one of the rookie wins, one of 2 rookie wins this year. He's missed 3 cuts, but he only missed them by single digits. That's how you get to be number 1, I think.
Yeah, and really kind of looking at that list, look for those first 4 anglers to be very dominant in the next tournament up in Detroit, Lake St. Clair. And by the way, talking about Lake St. Clair, every time we go to Lake St. Clair, really the last 2 or 3 times, obviously a forward-facing extravaganza. It's going to be again. There was a very big tournament there last weekend. And here's what's interesting, Tommy. The weights were very, very top heavy, 27 pounds winning on St. Clair. But so many 17 to 19 pound bags from a lot of the locals. Looking at that Rookie of the Year list, I look for those first 4 anglers to be very dominant. has not been as dominant as a season across the board from the rookies as it was last year.
Definitely not.
I think definitely, obviously, Blake Capps, you got some work to do, bud. The problem with Blake Capps right now from Oklahoma, Blake Capps is really digging a big hole. He's obviously safe, and we're going to talk about this. Yeah. He is safe. All of these anglers safe for the 2026 season, but that is a big, big hole that he has to dig out of next year. And also, one of the biggest surprises is the top of the standings for the Rookie of the Year a surprise? No, those dudes, you knew they were going to catch him. With some of the tournaments that we've had, Bo Browning surprises me because we've had some grimy, shallow water, comfortable fishing for Bo Browning. I look for him to catch him on the Mississippi River. He's going to have to shine in Detroit in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Bo Browning just missed the cut at St. John's and did make the cut at Okeechobee. 16th place, as a matter of fact. Such a great start to the year. But he wasn't able to perform on his home lake, Lake Ouachita there. And then we go to Lake Tenkiller here, which is very much like Lake Ouachita. It's in the same range, basically. And it was his worst, 86th place on Lake Tenkiller. Yeah. That's surprise. Both of those big surprises as far as Bo Browning goes.
I would agree with that. And we're going to find out from Canada. Evan Kung, so powerful on the Bassmaster Opens last year. Being from Canada, you would think that he would know a thing or three about Lake St. Clair. So interested to see. And not only that, hey, I'm interested. I know a lot of the rookies. I'm interested to hang with them at Lake St. Clair and congratulate every one of them on number one, making the Elite Series. But looking at the top of that list, kind of dominating this year with a lot of our rookies on the Elite Series. Tommy, I believe it is time for sink or swim. This one's going to be rough.
Yeah. Not looking forward
to attack it.
Not really looking forward to this one right there. But the way the world works is in every sport, with every season, some players depart because they're just not being at the level at what they performed at throughout their careers. Or they joined and they just didn't make the grade, and we have to take new ones on. And there's a system to take new ones on. It's called the Opens. 10 qualifiers this year from the Opens and 1 qualifier from the Bass Nation Championship. We got to make room for them, so we got to get rid of 13 anglers. As it goes right now, we're trying to get down to 100 anglers, and then add on if there are any legends or special cases that we need to add on top of that. So that's the math of it. That's the way it is. And it's tough to follow. It can be kind of murky because through the years the anglers can drop one of their worst tournaments in a certain year interval and so forth like that. It's hard to follow, but that list right there tells us what we need to know. Especially, we need to pay attention to those names in red.
Yeah, the names in red currently, if it was today, would be out. They would be out of the Bassmaster Elite Series. Now, if you look at the list with Ray Hanselman, Ben Milliken, Mark Menendez, you see names like Mark Menendez. They've been in this so long. They're in trouble. Now, the guys in the blue, if you're in this, we need to be very clear about this. If you're in 70, basically above 70th place in the Angler of the Year standings, you're safe. You're safe for this year. So these next two tournaments are so incredibly important because, hey, you might be safe right now, but you might go to St. Clair in the Mississippi River and suck it up, and all of a sudden you're on the outside looking in. Then you look at that middle list, okay? Guys like Paul Mueller, guys like Chad Pipkins, Bernie Schultz. They've done a lot of them. They've done this for so long, and they're in. Joey Cifuentes was dominant 2 years ago, man. Yeah. And then you go to the next side. If you look at the list with Ed Loughran, Wetherell Kelly, Mehdi Wong, Doobie Time, Tommy, some of those anglers, they're in real dangerous, bad shape going into the last two tournaments. Look, it sucks, but you know as well as I do, this list has always been very gray, We've not let it out many years. Some people have protected it with their life that sit right next to you. And here is the real truth about the Elite Series. Everybody wants to call folks that watch the goofy TnZ podcast, anglers themselves. You want to call this a real sport, okay? Doggone it, we're a sport. We're a sport. If you don't put the football in the end zone, you're not replaced in 1 year, 2 year, 15 years, 20 years. You're replaced next week. If you don't put the ball in the little cup, as harsh as this is to say, you might be great. You might be great with your sponsors promoting products. But if you don't put bass in the live well, and your career average is 65th, 70th, 75th, and there's been a lot of other anglers throughout the history of Bassmasters that stayed on for a decade, 2 decades, that, to be real blunt, they didn't put the football in the end zone. If this is a sport and you're not able to do that, number one, I've never understood, just from a personal standpoint, if your career average is down in the 70s, the mid 70s, it's almost like sitting at a blackjack table and you or a family member or a best friend saying, hey, your intentions are fantastic, but maybe this is not for you. Maybe being a professional fisherman is not for you. And in any other sport, if you are not performing year after year, maybe a decade and a half or longer, you're going to get replaced. And that is what you're starting to see more and more on the Elite Series.
Yeah, that's the long and the short of it, and that's the math as it stands right now. And special thanks to our colleague Ronnie Moore for making up this list for us to make it a little more clear. That's been a huge help. It took you and I at the better side of 5 days to truly understand, and it's actually when you do understand how it works, how the points and the averages work, it is very, for lack of a better way to put it, it's very factual on where these anglers, if you look at their history on the Elite Series, it's as fair. It sucks, but it's as fair as it gets if this is an actual sport. Yeah, fair, and through the years, more than fair in many cases, but still tragic to see some of the people who have so many fans out there who have performed at the top level for not years, but decades, have to go. I mean, everybody hates that. There's no question about that. Everyone hates that, but those guys in the red, that's where they stand right now. Again, that is a list of where things stand right now. If the season ended right here, there are 2 more events left to go, and that's going to change on some cases, tops and bottoms. Yeah.
And I'd love, if we can, I'd definitely love after St. Clair. I mean, those really for the guys that were in the blue that were safe right now, they got to catch them. It looks good right now that they're safe, but they've got to catch them at St. Clair. They've got to catch them at the Mississippi River. And I think it'd be real smart, and I think it's smart for our viewers of TnZ that we adjust this list after St. Clair and show where these anglers sit. Now, look out. I'm getting excited.
Look out now.
If you look at some of the Jonathan Kelly, Weatherall, Matty Wong, Tim Doobie, it's almost like they need to go win the next 2 tournaments.
Yeah. It's a huge mountain to climb. And yeah, yes. we wish them the best, but man, oh man, that's the cruel world we live in. Mathematics is cruel.
Yes.
Now we got a special moment in every show. We kick it off with these words right here. Are they coming? Are the words coming down the pipe here? Oh yeah, here we go.
Comes the weigh-in.
Exactly. Tell us what you want to weigh in on this time. I have a clue as to what it is.
Tommy, I want to weigh in just because I really I really enjoyed the Tenkiller event. Like, I thought that tournament was fantastic. I really enjoyed the Pasquotank River tournament. And maybe it's because I sat next to you and commentated 93 forward-facing sonar tournaments.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I do look, I love forward-facing sonar. I do, man. I use the heck out. Here's what I liked most about this season so far. This season has offered a lot of diversity, okay? And where that diversity comes from, and it's a very thankless job. Guys like Eric Lopez, guys like Davey Height. At one time, it was a guy like me. For the diversity of the schedule, the diversity of the product, the viewer experience of the product, it comes down to putting together the most badass schedule you can for the Elite Series. And while I'm all for going back to places that we historically have gone to, the Okeechobes, the St. John's, let's just go at different times. Yeah. Let's go at different times. You know, the biggest problem in the United States right now is they're not making any large reservoirs with housing for Bassmaster Elite Series tournaments. No. And really, you have to have the infrastructure all around, from housing to the size of the lake itself. Even though Tenkiller was a very small lake, you know, comparatively from the rest of the Bassmaster Elite Series, it was a great tournament. And again, to have that diversity, I think Lopez, I think the group at Bass this year kind of there was tournaments in there for everybody in the field.
Right. Not all at the same time. Not everybody at the same time. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
You can't say, it was a forward-facing sonar dominated. It was a shallow water. It was a grinder season. There was heavyweight events. There was technology events. There was shallow water banging. And to me as a viewer, to you as somebody that covers this, that's what you want. Yeah. You want across the board.
Yeah. And you want some tournaments where everyone feels like, you know, I got a chance here. I'm familiar with this place. All the information is known. But I love the Pasquotank because it was the anti that. I mean, these guys were so challenged there. They were at such a huge plane. They could fish from Elizabeth City all the way up to Norfolk and go. I mean, they could go up in the Dismal Swamp. If they had and the weather they knew was going to blow from a different direction each and every day. They couldn't plan. They couldn't find a place, one of those far-flung places where they knew they could get to 4 days in a row. That was off the table. They had to improvise. And it didn't work out well for a lot of them, as you say. As Davey Height will say, too, you know, a lot of guys put themselves out of it, you know, before it even started. You know, and that opens the door for someone else who does some supreme creative thinking and notches the biggest win of all time, the most dominant win of all time.
Yeah, every tournament has a game plan. Every tournament has a game plan for whoever wins the event. But when you see tournaments like the Pasquotank, where, boy, it's almost like you're a lot of the lakes that we fish, you're able to scrap game plan A and go to B and then C and then D or wherever it ends up. But to see a tournament like the Pasquotank, it's like you were married. You were married to whatever game plan you chose, especially with the size of that body of water. But those X Factor tournaments, those Pasquotanks, and really, even though we've been to Tenkiller before, that was a X Factor tournament.
Yeah.
Those X Factor tournaments, to me, they always end up the monkey wrench of the season, which to me, those are great to cover.
Yes.
They're great to watch. And again, for the diversity, for the future, it's something I said to Chase Anderson 3 years ago, and we've all talked about it. It is critical for the product itself. It's critical to me for the mindset of the field to keep them heading in the right direction, is that the diversity is always first and foremost in the scheduling of the Elite Series. And hats off really hats, especially where we're going to go at St. Clair and then have a polar opposite event at the Mississippi River after that to end the season. It's been a great elite series across the board, from techniques to champions, and we've got to see a lot of anglers fastball that maybe we've been missing the last year or two.
And Tenkiller was not new. We'd been there before, but in no way did it resemble that place we were there in 2019. We had a weather system, a hurricane, that sat over that thing for 4 days and just changed it up. I mean, to look at that spot where Kyle Welcher, again, capitalizes on that. To find a thing that's just a trickle of water in normal times, it looked like the Snake River pouring down a canyon, and he went in there and caught him really well. I mean, that kind of stuff excites you. That makes you absorbed in the show.
It does, and the other, for you, I'm going to ask you a question on this. To me, the most fun I would have covering events or watching are the ones where you really didn't know how it was going to play out.
Right.
A lot of places we go, and our viewers know this. You could literally dictate how the tournament's going to be won. And we've gone back to a lot of places so many times the same time of year, you can almost dictate how, and for the most part, where they're going to be dominated. What are your favorite tournaments to cover?
Just like these ones we had. When we go someplace new, I love that. I mean, it can be tough. It could be like South Dakota, but I like seeing a different landscape.
Yes.
and it's a test of how good these guys are. Everyone can go to Guntersville and catch them on a rattle trap, but certain time of the year. But man, to see them have to improvise and figure out something else and figure out a way to separate themselves from everyone else that figures out something. That to me is a kind of tournament.
Imagine if you flip-flopped it and we ended the year in Florida. Like,
Love it.
I don't know how, for at least the top 10, I don't know how it would be dominated compared to, we can go to a map room and tell you exactly where you better be in February. Those are, hey, I get it. Going back to places I'm being redundant, going back to the places that we've been before, fantastic. Just go at a different time.
Yeah.
See what I was doing? I'm putting stuff in Lopez's head right now. Let's go.
Finish the year at Harris Chain. I'm fine with it.
Let's go.
That would be great. I would think that now starting the year in upstate New York might be a little problematic.
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in.
Okay.
No.
All right. Good. I love it. How about a little Strike King, Z?
Tommy, it's the boat dock time of year. A lot of fish getting up under those boat docks right there. Strike King Ocho. Bigger than that, Tommy Sanders, I've talked to you about this. Mm-hmm. Blue craw is the color. Green pumpkin, you see some blue swirl in there. Yep. Kind of resembles a little bluegill finish. Strike King Ocho. And the nice thing about an Ocho, great thing about this, it has a lot of weight where you could skip it under pontoons, you could skip it under docks, but it has a slower sink rate than other stick worms you may have used. A Strike King Ocho. And again, whoever wins this week, I'm doubling up. I'm doubling down, and I'm going to send them in honor of Independence Day, one of the best movies ever, by the way.
No, that's a holiday. Is it Independent? Yeah. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
In honor of the 4th of July, whoever wins this week, Tommy, I'm gonna definitely hook them up in a big way.
How do you like to rig the Ocho, Z?
Tommy, I'm more of I like to flip an Ocho a lot, actually on heavy line, kind of Florida style, up in the north, little 3/16 or an 1/8 ounce weight. Sure, wacky rigging it, a Nico rig. I like to do it like that. But I'm not scared to get up shallow and get to work with an Ocho. The great thing about an Ocho is the versatility, Tom. It's the versatility.
That's exactly
great
right.
bait.
I think many would agree with you on that right there. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. We got one more important piece of business right there. Those heraldic trumpets say that we are ready to make massive, weighty predictions on the next event. And the next event comes from a place that you are so familiar with. It's mind-boggling. St. Clair. Salt St. Clair.
Lake St. Clair.
Yes, yes.
Lake Salt Clair, the
Yes.
Detroit River. And boy, I'm just stunned this angler has not won there yet, because he literally, when he has time just to go fishing, I have seen him out there. I know the haunts he fishes. And I'm going with a Taku Ito victory. I think that's low-hanging fruit. I really do. I think it's low-hanging fruit.
Is it?
My feeling is I felt like Taku should have won there twice now, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Here's to show you how into Lake St. Clair Taku Ito was. Last year, I was on a wicked frog bite in Minnesota and invited Taku to come and fish with me. And he said, no, I'm going to go to the Open on Lake St. Clair. And I think he actually did really, really well in the Open. But every time he's gone there, and what's interesting about the St. Clair tournament this year, I'm curious to see if it is another Anchor Bay dominated event. The fish are literally, there's actually, Tommy, there's still a lot of fish, especially on the South Shore, still on beds. There's a lot of fish that are guarding fry. Not a ton of bass have gotten offshore. It was won by an Adrian College bass angler last weekend, Aaron Jagfeld, with 27 pounds. But for the most part, it was, but that's typical that, that this time of year, the big groups have not gotten out in their haunts yet. I look for Taku Ito to hold the trophy in Detroit. And again, Tommy, I'd like to be there to give him a big high five.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to be there, right? You're going to be there. I don't know if you'll be there for the final
Tommy.
day. Yeah.
I'm coming from the whole for the whole event. I'm not doing anything that weekend. I'm going to bring Karen up there. I'm going to hang out with Mike McInnes and go to Mr. Paul's every single weigh-in. I'm not going to be at the weigh-in. I'm going to be at Mr. Paul's.
I'm envious, and as I make my pronouncement as prediction, people think I'm copying you, but I sort of am. I have picked another angler hailing from Japan, and that is Kyoyo Fujita. I think he's the momentum guy. He is the impact guy on the tour right now. And I look at these last two events here. He can catch him in environments like this. He's great in that sort of environment. I see him go to the Mississippi River after I watched him in action on the Sabine. Hey, he can handle that too. I think he's a dark horse. I don't know if he's maybe too far back to win Angler of the Year, but I think to win at St. Clair, I think Kyoyo Fujita is going to be my pick. That's going to be my pick. So there we go. We got two international anglers here, picked by your humble servants here at the TnZ show.
Tommy, for some reason, I just came up with a really bizarre idea. As much as Kyoyo Fujita and Taku Ito fish similarly, fair to say, right? Could you imagine if they teamed up like Carissa, like Corey and Chris Johnston, and worked as one unit to where we could make a Takarita where they were one angler, right?
Okay.
Do you like where I'm headed here, Tommy?
I like it. I'd be on that. Maybe next time.
Ooh.
Well, it's been great. I've enjoyed it so much. See, I think we've hit on a lot of things we like. We had to hit on a subject we don't like at all. But that's what makes the world go around. And we'll try to figure out some more the next time around. I don't know what we're going to talk about next time around, but you usually come up with some good ideas. So I'm leaning on you, old buddy.
Tommy, you have a great 4th of July. I have to get back to the Carp Master Elite Series that I am currently the Angler of the Year, the state of St. Joe County, Michigan.
I don't doubt it. Good luck, and thanks for being with us today on the TnZ Show.
Have a great 4th.